So welcome back to this webinar, DORA process in detailed. So today we will understand. So we are going to understand. Actually, we understood DORA process very well. What is DORA process? So I just want to give a short, brief concept. So when you have a client PC, if you have a static IP address, and when you say obtain IP address automatically, so what happens, that computer will generate one discover packet. What is discover? It is used to search who is DHCP server. It is a request generated by client. The discover contains 0.0.0, which is no IP address. It contains 255.255.255.255, which is flooded broadcast. This request will goes to everybody in the client or in the network to resolve who is DHCP server. It has 68 port number client, 67 port number DHCP server. So now if you come down, which means when DHCP server receives this discover packet, that DHCP server is going to respond back with the offer message. What is this offer? That offer tells that DHCP is going to provide the next available IP address in its scope, which is server offering an IP address which is called offer. When DHCP server sending an offer, there must be a source IP address of that offer because it has an IP address. But there would be a 255.255.255 is a destination address, because a client does not have any IP address to send unicast traffic. How clients identify this offer comes to me, because it has destination MAC address which is sent by in discover. So by this MAC address, that computer will identify this offer came to that specific computer. That's clear. Now next part is 172, which means when client receives an offer, client is going to send one request to that offer, which is DHCP server. So client is requesting one IP address which is offered by DHCP server. It is okay with that, so it may provide that IP address. When again client has only 00, which is, it doesn't have any static IP or dynamic IP, it has to fill with a 000. Then client is going back, sending back to server which is request. It is also going flooded broadcast. After this, the client send request, then server will send back one acknowledgement called acknowledgement. This providing 172.30.0.111. This is your IP address. It has so and so information, renewal time, rebinding time, DNS preferred, everything will be there in that offer, in acknowledgement. That acknowledgement will sent by DHCP server as a flooded broadcast. However, the client will identify it by using its MAC address. After all these process, so what is DORA process? DORA is a process between server and client. DORA is a process between server and client during IP configuration, during IP uptime. Okay, this is what DORA process. DORA is a process between DHCP server and client to obtain IP address dynamically. So we have one topology structure here. What is this topology says? Can I use single DHCP server for a different network? Yes, we can use. For that we need one router which act as a DHCP helper. DHCP helper. What is DHCP helper? DHCP helper is a router which receives broadcast traffic from one different network and send the DORA process to the DHCP server as a unicast. So imagine when this client PC send discover with sending discover with 0.0.0 IP address and 255.255.255.255, which is this is discover going to search DHCP server. When DHCP server receives this discover message and receives, and what it does, it will change the source IP address to as 10 network 10.0.0.1, and it will send us to 172.30.0.10. So when this computer, which this router receives DHCP server, when routers receives DHCP server discover, it is going to send the same discover as unicast. It is going to send the same as a unicast, which means DORA is a broadcast between router and client. The same DORA is a unicast between a router and DHCP server. When DHCP server receives discover with particular source 0.10.0.1, so it start providing from different scope range which is created by admin. So what I'm trying to say, DHCP may have one more range, 10 range. When it uses 10 network scope range, when it receives discover with a 10 network IP address. So when DHCP server uses 172.30 network range, when it receives discover with 0.0.0. If you don't understand, this video will be available in YouTube. You have to check. If you are watching in YouTube, you just recap it. So what I'm trying to say, when DHCP receives discover with a 000, it offers IP address from its own IP range. When DHCP receives discover from different IP address, when DHCP server receives discover with a different IP address, it offers that particular IP range. That's all the top secret of sending DHCP server, or use single DHCP server for multiple network. But the remaining process will be the same. Everything is same. DORA, discover, request, acknowledgement, everything will be same, nothing different. Now here I have to again install DHCP server and explain how DHCP server can take a backup. Let's go to install DHCP server. I have DHCP server working here. We go to tab and C1. No, today I will use C2 as a DHCP server for a small reason. It has some computer installed configuration. Okay, no problem. I will take the snapshot, revert. I will start it again. No problem for that. It will let it come up. And here I got one question from one of our attendees. The question was if multiple router between the DHCP client and DHCP server, then router will send request unicast for IP request. This question asked by Mr. Shahul Hamid. Anyway, So let me explain how you are asking. Let me design what you are asking. This is a network. Hmm. Imagine this is a network. Let me bring some client PC, server PC and router. Okay. So what you are asking? You are asking you have multiple routers between DHCP server and client. This is what your question. If I design you so that it will be very clear for you. Imagine we have a network where multiple computers are there. So these computers are exist here. Okay. So now you have a router. Okay. Imagine you have DHCP server in 172.30.0.0/16 network, and all this network is connected to router. It's all connected like this. Imagine you may have 10 network here, 20 network here, 30 network here and 40 network here, and you may have 40.1 IP address. So when this computer requested, when this computer sends a discover, what will be the discover? 0.0.0.0. Which interface receives, which is like say R1, R2, R3 and R4, four routers. So R4 router receives this discover message. When it receives, the source IP will be 40 dot, which means however destination packet will be 255, all 255s, right? When R4 router receives this discover, in this situation R4 router act as DHCP helper. R4 router act as DHCP helper. When DHCP helper is R4 router, then we don't consider any router in it, just leave it. They are routers. Now R4 router receives that discover and it is going to send that packet to whom? DHCP server, right? It is going to send to DHCP server unicast. When the router wants to send to DHCP server to unicast, as a unicast, it has to have a route to reach 172.30 network. So there must be a route to reach 172.30 network, and it may send as a unicast. So source IP address of the discover after this source IP address is 40.1, destination IP address will be 172.30.0.1. But they are not going to be a DHCP helpers. They are just a router which forwarding packet. So when they forward this packet unicast, right? However, router forward unicast traffic. So it doesn't matter what type of router you have. It doesn't matter which networks you have in between DHCP server and DHCP client. And it doesn't matter how many routers you have in this between client. It matters whether that DHCP helper router will be able to reach DHCP server or not. That's a matter. Do you have a route to reach DHCP server? That's fine. It is going to send a packet to the destination computer. If the route does not exist, if router got trouble, then you will not be able to get IP address from the DHCP server, because there must be a communication between DHCP server and DHCP helper. This is what the concept is. I hope you understood very well. And again, I have one more question, Mr. Karthik Kumar. Kindly explain using L3 switch. Mr. Karthik, I don't have any L3 switch in this situation. I may go to use packet tracer under, but I can explain you without using L3 switch what happens with the L3 switch. Let's take this is L3 switch, which is manageable switch. In L3 switch, in L3 switch, see, in L3 switches what we do, we usually divide into many VLANs, right? Same thing is going to happen. Are you using DHCP server, a separate DHCP server which is connected to any VLAN, or you use router or switch? switch as a DHCP server, how you are going to use. Based on this, your configuration will be changed. If you are using L3 switch as a DHCP server, then you don't have this much of concept for implementing installing DHCP server, right? Imagine as per my concept, how I am going to explain. You have one Windows DHCP server in the network which is connected in VLAN 10, and you have VLAN 20, VLAN 30. If you want to send IP addresses, configured IP addresses to different VLANs, you need a router, right? Without router it is not possible, because you need router. But as you told me that it is L3 switch, L3 switch act as a router, so L3 switch has to work as a helper. I don't know the configuration of L3 switch at higher level how to configure, but it should support DHCP helper function, so that DHCP can send traffic to all these different VLANs. So DHCP wants to work with different VLANs in L3 environment. That L3 switch must enable with a routing functionality and DHCP helper functionality. I hope you understood this. If that server mm, mm, if it is not L3 switch, or it could be some other layer 2 switch which routing does not support, then you have to bring a separate router here, where you can use to do inter VLAN. You put one port, trunk link, router on a stick, and same thing will be going to happen with this. It doesn't matter what router, what switch you use, but the concept will be the computers which is there in different network must be able to communicate to the router must able to communicate to DHCP server. That's all. Router is going to play key role, major role in this multi network DHCP server topic. And again you have, so what we want to configure in scope in DHCP router IP address. See, I hope you are asking in this level. In DHCP server, we create a scope in server, right? We don't create any scope in any router. If you are using router as a DHCP server, then there is no need of having all this concept, right? We can simply use router act as a DHCP, then we can configure router. Any router can be act as a DHCP server. And you are telling something that in our environment we are using DHCP server with many VLANs 1 2 3 4 which is connected in L2 switch. Okay, yes, okay, fine. So same thing which as your comment you have asking that same scenario, right? This, right? Same scenario which I designed you here. 1 2 3 4 switches connected, but you don't want to configure anything. And if router is acting as route as DHCP server, then you have to configure scope in router with a different network. So based on the request, router is going to configure, router is going to provide. If you have separate Windows or Linux DHCP server, then router is going to be helper. If you remove the server, you enable DHCP scope in router itself, router is going to be DHCP server. I hope you clear all doubts. So let's move forward. What I am supposed to plan today is I have to teach something related to DHCP server, how to take backup of DHCP thing, create a scope and backing of DHCP. See, if you have your friends group, any WhatsApp group, you please share the link of this live webinar. It is just I'm trying to install DHCP server. I'm just installing DHCP service. To install DHCP service, I need one static IP address. I got a comment from Karthik Kumar. Kindly share top related interview questions at the end. Yeah, definitely. I will have one session specifically on interview questions. I have few questions here. If you go to one link, you can find some questions link here. Huzefa.wordpress.com, where you can find a few questions. You can find some interview questions, but anyhow I will have one dedicated session. I supposed to cover topics, the main core subject. Then only I can bring all that questions without explaining the topic. How it is possible to explain the question answers? Right now I'm fully focusing on the topic. Now DHCP is installing. So what I'm going to do now, after installation of DHCP server, I will create a scope and I will do some I will show you how to reserve an IP address, and I will show you how to take backup and restore, and what other features, important features we have in DHCP server. Yes, DHCP installed succeeded. I will leave this window, close this window, and I even go to tools, click on DHCP. This is DHCP manager tool, and expand it, expand further IPv4. I will go to create a new scope. I will go here. Next, name of the scope is, we can say, some network or Ekascloud. Ekascloud scope name. Next is 172.30.0.100, 172.30.0.150. This is a scope. Next, I don't add any exclusions range here because I just leave as default. And next, here, going next, I will add default gateway 172.30.0.1. It is just gateway only. I'm not going much more in it. I just give next. Further next, I will can give domain name like ekascloud.com. I'll provide 172.30.0.110 IP address as a preferred DNS. But anyway, I don't have any IP address like this. And going next, and further next and click yes. So you will be having a scope range and you have address leases. I don't have any address lease. I will go and get IP address from, I go to C1. Today C2 is my server, DHCP server, C1 is a client. And what I do here, I will go to NICAD of this computer. In that NICAD, I'll go properties. I try to get IP address. Yeah, it is there here. I'll say okay. When I get an IP address, it should get IP address from IP config. I am having some APIPA. So how can I get IP address? I say IP config / renew. When I say renew, what happens? This see, I got Ekascloud as a DNS suffix and IPv4, then 255.172.1, everything I got. So what I want is, I want to reserve one IP address. So what I do is, I will go to tab and C2, which is DHCP server. I have something called reservation. If you see the leases, refresh, I can have server 1 ekascloud.com IP address, everything is there, right? So I have some reservation. What is reservation? So if I want to provide a standard IP address to this particular IP or to a particular NICAD or particular MAC address, I can give one standard IP address, new reservation. Like say this is a domain controller and DS or DNS server. Okay, what IP address I will going to provide? 172.30.0.110. What MAC address I should provide? The MAC address should belongs to this computer. Get MAC. Which computer? To which computer I am going to set our IP address? Set or configure IP address. So I took that MAC address of the destination computer, paste it here, add. After adding this, I have one reservation. So whenever C1 gets IP address, it always get with the same IP address. Can I check what IP address I have? No, I have the older one. When I will get this new IP address? When I say IP config space / release, it will release the IP address. Again, if I config renew, when you try to get IP address from the DHCP server, with this MAC address, DHCP server offer that reserved IP address to this computer. We can use reservation for any printing devices, for any IP phones or anything like that. See, previously IP was 100, now IP is 110 because it is reserved address. So we reserve this address for this particular computer. Whenever this computer get IP address, it gets the same IP address. This is called reservation. And we have something called DHCP backup, which means we can take this entire scope into backup. How to take DHCP backup? When you right click on this, you have something called backup. It is a just very simple option. When you click backup, whatever scope, address leases, reservation, scope options, all comes under into backup into this folder. Where is this folder? This folder will be present in DHCP. Where is DHCP folder? Under system32. Where is system32? You know, under Windows folder. Where is Windows folder? Under C:. So like that you can take a backup of DHCP server to the alternate location also. But I will go with the default option. I just wanted to show you how to take DHCP backup. Now backup is done. Now after this backup, what you can do? You can delete this reservation. You can remove this leases. You can delete the lease. Or what you can do, finally you can delete this entire scope. No problem. Will DHCP work? Yes, it will work for 8 days because the client renewal time is 8 days. After 8 days, DHCP is not going to work to anybody because it does not have any scope. So what we have to do, we have to restore it. How to restore? Same thing. Right click, restore, restore. If you see right click properties, you can see some options called a path where the backup is stored by default. You can decide the path of the backupping of DHCP server. This is a place where the database is exist and where the backup are exist. So what I do is I will use this path to restore the active DHCP backup. When you right click restore, I have to choose, it is automatically selected backup path, and select OK. In order for changes to take effect, the service must restart. Yes, so it will stop the service, it will restore all the scope, reservation, everything, then it will start the service. At the time of restoring, DHCP won't work. At the time of restoring, DHCP will not work. So all the functions should be stopped while DHCP. So DHCP successfully restored. Now if you expand it, you will see all that IP addresses, records, everything. See, scope is there, address is there, reservation is there, everything will be as it is. This is called DHCP backup and restore. Next, we have something called filters. What is filter? Filter is one of the security feature in DHCP server. If you want to allow for a specific computer to provide a DHCP server IP address, you can go and add a new filter. Add a new filter. You can put the MAC address of that computer and say file server or DC server or something. If you add it, no, so that computer will be access IP address from DHCP server, but now it is not working because it is in disabled state. You have to enable this, then only it works. So I got one question from Mr. Mohan Babu. Last week I asked about relay agent. Can you explain please? I think I already explained in that first. If you see this video on that in the first few minutes, you will understand what is that relay agent. DHCP helper. Karthik has a question. After upgrade from 2012 to 2019, we can use this backup. Yeah, actually when we, yes, definitely we can use the same backup because the file format of the DHCP server will be the same, so no changes. So we can use the same backup, no problem with that. Yes, see, Mohan Babu has comment regards when two different scope in DHCP, how client will choose correct scope subnet. Yeah, Mohan Babu, I explained it. You just, if you see that first 20 minutes, no, I hope you will understand because I have explained you in that first session. I think you came little late. If you just check it, if you are not able to understand, you please you can ask me once again. I can explain you, but I have explained you how it is, how it works, what will be the source and what will be the destination, how our IP address will change. I explained it. Now when come back to the concept, this is a filters. Filters will be having two types of allow filter, deny filter. When I add MAC addresses in allow filter, so DHCP will provide IP addresses to only which has MAC addresses in allow filters. If I want to block IP addresses from DHCP server, I can add that computer's MAC address into this deny filter, so DHCP cannot provide IP addresses to this deny filters. So anyway, I'm not going to enable it, I just disable, because I have to work with this DHCP server for a while. Now what I am going to show you here is the next thing which I am going to build, which is very important. Let me bring domain controller icon, client computer icon, and server. So you all know what is Active Directory. If you don't know Active Directory, we have some videos in the same YouTube channel and same Facebook page, and you can watch that video and come back and continue this. If you're well known to Active Directory, that's fine, you can continue this. So what you have to do is, we have one domain called ekascloud.com. This is Windows Active Directory domain controller. This is domain controller. This is going to be a DHCP server. Let's name it here. This is DC plus DNS, and this is going to be a DHCP server. Okay, it is going to be a client PC. This is client PC. What IP address I have here? Here I have 172.30.0.110. This is a dynamic IP address given by this computer, that's DHCP server. It has one static IP address, DHCP 20 IP address. The client may have 30 IP address. Okay, this is a domain. So right now what we have is, we have DHCP server, but we don't have DC and DNS server. What I am going to do, I am going to install Active Directory and DNS in that C1 computer, so that we can see how DHCP works with Active Directory domain controller, how DHCP integrate with Active Directory and DNS. So if I click here, add roles and features, so I am going to install Active Directory domain services with the DNS. So we have to see next. If you are well known to this, you can fast forward this video. If you are unknown to this, you just wait and see, because in this computer I am using dynamic IP address. That's why there is a warning while installing or while choosing to DNS server. So now we have to see how DNS can work with the DHCP server. How DNS can work, how DHCP can work with the DNS and Active Directory server. So it takes little time. So here DNS Active Directory is installed. I will configure as a domain controller by using this wizard. I will go for a new forest. We go with ekascloud.com. This is the name of the forest. I will go next. It will verify whether this name has already exist or not. It is checking. Mr. Karthik is asking, kindly explain reverse lookup zone in DNS. Yeah, okay, let's see in DNS how it works. So Anyway, we have one topic, right? DNS. We will see now. So if you want all this explanation, you have to watch the previous videos. I'm not going to explain anything in this because we know already. I'm going next. Next. Yeah, it is install ready. Installing. Now the system is ready. Domain controller logged in. Usually password will expire after login. So what is my next step is going to make that DHCP is a member of domain. I want to make this computer act as a member in the domain controller. I will go to DHCP server. I will change IP address, DNS IP address to 30.0.110. I have to set preferred DNS. After this, I go nCnet system system.cpl. I'll go to change and domain ekascloud.com. administrator password of Active Directory domain. I can give any name here, but I have only one account, that's why I have used it. So when the DHCP is a member of domain, if the DHCP server wants to provide to IP addresses to domain client. See, when the DHCP server wants to provide IP addresses to domain client, then DHCP has some condition. So DHCP has some conditions. What conditions? What it has to be? We have to know. See, there is something called authorization. Let's log in as domain administrator. Ekascloud / administrator. I have to log in as Ekascloud administrator, and if I open DHCP management console, DHCP mgmt.msc, see your scopes are red mark. Why it is red mark? Why? Because previously it was working, now it will not work. DHCP won't work. Why? Because this DHCP will not work in the domain. To work in the domain, we have to do one task. That is called authorization. We have to authorize DHCP server in the domain so that it will start working in the domain. This is a mandatory option in DHCP server when the DHCP server in the domain. If the DHCP server in the workgroup environment, you don't want to do anything. If the DHCP server in domain environment, you have to authorized, because we already authorized, that's why it is showing unauthorized. If you unauthorize, it will say removing authorization for DHCP directory may cause stop working DHCP. You understand? If you stop this authorizing, so DHCP won't provide IP addresses. That's a major concept of DHCP when the DHCP server in domain. So right click on it, authorize, then you refresh and you will get, this is called authorization. So I'm going to stop this class today here. So we will continue in the next week regarding how to provide a DHCP and how to configure a reverse lookup zone in DNS. And mostly next week we will finishing the chapter of DNS DHCP with Active Directory in next class. And thank you all. Keep watching our video and we'll see next one. Thank you.